Kia ora guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode we are tackling building a front bumper for the beta truck. So to start off with, I've been working on a kit with Anomaly Off-Road, who specialise in high strength steel products, specifically off-road products. I've been working with them to design basically a slot together DIY winch tray kit. So what that gives us is this setup here, which we'll take a look at in a second. But basically it fills out the centre section, allowing you to have a strong winch mount for your truck, and then that allows the builder to put on their own bar work onto the sides, add wings, add hoops, add headlight bars, etc. So that's kind of the idea of it. We're hoping to get it on the market soon. This is a prototype which I've been working on. It's actually the second prototype because I messed the first one up. Once this kit's on and tested, we should be ready to put it on the market. It does require a bit of work, which I've already done to the truck, which includes cutting out this centre support. It just is completely in the way, and I realise not everyone's going to want to do that. However, this kit is designed to have as good as possible approach angle, and that did mean sacrificing the centre tie bar just to get the winch sat further back. The winch will also just press up against this flexible hose for your AC, but again, that shouldn't be a problem. If you're worried, you can always sleeve it. So anyway, that's enough talking about the kit. Let's take a look at it and start bolting it up and fizzing it together.
You could get the world from me, stay the same, make it big. Can you still love me? Will you still want me?
Cause just like you, I've been trying to mediate, see the value in things before it all depreciate.
So I've picked up this disc, or I don't even know what it is, but apparently it's good for stripping back material, so give this thing a crack. Well, that seems to do the trick. I'm impressed. I'll be curious to see how long this lasts because it was expensive, but yeah, it's definitely something to add to the tool bag. So I've gone ahead and cleaned up all the edges. I've also put a chamfer on these front edges just so that I can get a nice weld in along the front. But yeah, first things first is bolting these on. The beauty of these is you can see 1, 2 normal mounting holes just like every other Disco 2 winch bumper or anything, but I've got 3, which ties into the sway bar mount. I'm not running sway bars, so it makes it easy, but the final product will work with sway bars as well. Just always hated seeing winch bumpers held on with just 2 bolts, well 4 but 2 either side. Having a third mount really helps with stopping the rotating. A lot of winch bumpers you'll see, firstly they've got huge big slots on them, and secondly, the second you winch off them, you see the winch bumper actually twist down, and it's a combination of having slotted holes rather than accurate holes, and not having a third mount to stop that rotation. So this is far superior product in my opinion. Anyway, enough waffle. I'm going to go ahead and bolt these on, and then throw the tray in. From the factory, the Discovery comes with 10mm bolts to secure the bumper to the chassis. However, I have gone ahead and previously drilled these out to accept 1/2 inch hardware. This is much stronger and is kind of the minimum in my opinion as to what should be used when installing something like a winch bumper. 10mm is definitely not sufficient. I wouldn't go anything less than 12. So while we go ahead and weld out the winch tray, I figure it is worth discussing what the winch tray is actually made of and a bit about its design. So it's made from a high strength steel. It's not just mild steel, I believe it's called Strenex. So it means that we can use a lot lighter gauge material while still having a lot of strength. So this is all done through Anomaly Off-Road. I drew the design up in CAD, and Anomaly Off-Road specialises in off-road products using those high strength steels. So all laser cut and folded. The slot together design not only makes assembly very easy, however it also means that if the welds that hold the winch tray together are not of the best quality, it shouldn't reduce the strength of the winch tray at all. As you winch, it will pull the slot tighter together, and provided the bolts are done up, there's really no way for the tray to come apart, even if all the welds were to fail. This was something that was very important to me when I was designing this winch tray, because I want this to be a kit which anyone can purchase, assemble, and have confidence that it is not going to let them down on the tracks. Well, that's all tacked together, and I've done as much of the welds that I can actually get to comfortably with it on the vehicle, just to try and avoid any warping happening when it comes off the vehicle. So as you can see, got it all welded up, got that gap filled in nicely, tacked it all in there. It's tacked in there as well and underneath. So as tempted as I am just to leave it as it is and grab some tube and start making the bumper itself, because I'm itching to see this thing come together, I'm going to go ahead and pull it off fully welded out. Well, there we have it. It's off the truck. Came off nice and easy. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and fully weld it out, but you guys have seen me weld a million times, so just for the sake of time, how about we try a bit of the old YouTube magic. Alright, there we go. Flipped over and fully welded. The welds didn't come out too badly, but good to get a bit more time on the welder. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and clean it up now. Just welds like this can be flapped back because we don't need to see those. Clean it up, bolt it on. The tray is all welded up, ground back and looking nice and fresh. So yeah, that made for a good afternoon's work. Literally these trays you'll be able to throw together in probably 2 to 4 hours, depending how competent you are and how good a job you do of the welds. As you can see, I've got the Nova winch in there, which is a bigger bodied winch compared to your standard run vis and things like that. This was designed specifically with winches like the Nova winch in mind, so that you can run those as well as the smaller winches. I personally really rate the Nova winches, so it was key to me when designing it to make sure it fitted. Anyway, that's pretty much enough from this for the sales pitch. I've got to head off, so we'll pick this back up tomorrow and we'll start throwing some bars on the truck and building this from a tray into a bumper. It is a new day working on the truck, and forgive me, last night I popped around and did a little bit of work, just a little bit. As you can see, I've gone ahead and got the grille trimmed just around there and there. I've decided to go ahead and remove the trim that goes under the headlight and indicator. That was due to the way that I designed the bumper in my head was not going to work in real life. Essentially, it kind of made an endless loop of, to get the grille on, you have to put the headlight surrounds in, and to get the headlight surrounds in, you have to do that before the bumper goes in, but the bumper needed to go in before the grille, and it just made an endless cycle that you'd never actually be able to take anything on or off properly. So I decided to scrap that idea and just delete these. So I actually really like the high clearance look that it gives as well. However, one of the indicator mounting points, just here, obviously is no longer attached, and that is causing the whole thing to just flop around and dump mud all over me. But anyway, we don't want that flopping around, so the first things first is going to be to make up a little bracket to go from here and then out, that this little factory mounting point can tie into to shore the whole thing up. That's one. That's two. After removing the paint from the headlight buckets where the tabs are going to weld onto, I have applied some weld-through primer to both the tabs and the headlight buckets so that if any moisture gets between the two layers, it won't cause any corrosion. Alright, ready for action. It is hot, it's 31 degrees already, and I'm in overalls, so let's keep this short. Tube we're going to be using for the main portion of the bumper. It's 3.2mm thick wall, 40 nominal bore pipe. I just personally quite like the size of that. It looks, it doesn't look too lost on the vehicle, so that's why I've chosen to use it. So what I'll do is do a quick measure up of a rough length I'll need, cut it off, and then start working out what bends I need to put in it. So I've gone ahead and cut my 1 metre length of 40 nominal bore, and then we've got my pipe bender over here. This pipe bender, people ask about it all the time. It's just a generic pipe bender. If you're wanting to do this and get good results, honestly, just splash out on some good quality formers, get some with nice thick walls and high walls. That way it stops the tube deforming. Anyway, I've got my first angle set that I want to bend. So what we'll do is we'll just chuck this in and bend it. That closes over. And I'm just going to take up the tension just slightly with the fast stroke ram, and then if we come around here, you'll be able to see I've got my tube, and I need to get the tube rotated so that my line is perfectly level, and then I need that line to line up with this mark I've put on the bender. Righto, so now that we've gone ahead and got this bent to the correct angle, I've just gauged that by lining the sides up with the marker, basically eyeballing it. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit more of a pump, just because as it is, it'll actually spring back a significant amount when I let the pressure off. So we'll bend it, and then to make sure that I can replicate this for the other side, grab my tape measure and take a measurement of how far the ram has come out. I'll measure probably to the former here, just shoving the measure through there, but I'll add just, generally like 1 pump's good. This one isn't super fussy, thankfully. Maybe a smidge more. Alright, yeah, we've definitely gone past our bend now. So what I'll do, grab the tape measure, and this also means that if I've not bent it enough, I can accurately get back to my previous point to then continue bending from, because otherwise the spring back makes it challenging to know how far you've come. So we're looking at smack on 215. So I can now go ahead and release this off. Chuck that up. Let's see how close I got. And that is pretty much perfect. If anything, just slightly overbent, but that is okay. So anyway, now that you guys have seen how I bend the tube, I know you've probably seen it in previous videos, but I always get a million questions on Instagram asking how I do all my tube work. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just keep replicating this over and over. I won't talk you through every single tube because obviously that'll get boring, but I'm going to go ahead, replicate another one of these tubes, and do the next bend. Yeah, that looks good. Here we are replicating the bend from the first tube onto the second tube. Obviously we want the same bend on both sides of the bumper. We want a mirror image. So we're achieving that by getting a measurement of 215mm to match that from the first tube. And that will guarantee us 2 identical bent tubes. There you go, guys. 2 identical bends. So now with that done, I'm going to put a reference mark on both of them, just a point to measure off in the future before I go ahead and put any more bends in it, and then we'll start working out what the second bend is. Well, I've gone and skipped ahead a little bit. I did the cut of that first tube and then decided to go ahead and tack it on the truck. So as you can see, that is what we're working with. So the reason I've done so is, well, I didn't film because getting this notch here is just a slow, time-consuming job. And by tacking it in place, I can now grab a tube, line it up there, figure out my angles and where I want to mark it for the next bend. So before I go and bend this top tube with the second bend, I've gone and copied across my bend mark onto the other tube, just so that I can perfectly replicate it. And then the only other thing I really must stress is that when you're doing the bend, before you start, really stop and think about what way the bend is going to bend the tube, because it is so easy to accidentally bend do the bend in the right spot but opposite, so that your tube's going the wrong way. Just really think about it before you go and chuck a bend in. Anyway, I think I've got it all worked out, so I'll set you up and we'll get this next bend done. As you can see, the angle finder's reading 0. It's slightly out forwards and back. It doesn't matter so much about crosswise, but that's reading 0.2. But anyway, 0.2 forwards backwards, that's perfectly fine. That has been achieved by just putting some chocks under the back wheel to make sure it's perfectly level. And boom, 89.7. That's about as good as I'm going to get it with this. There's too many tolerances built up here to get it to the point something of a degree, but I'm happy with that. So what we're going to do is now just take up some more pressure, make sure it doesn't roll, and I can feel that starting to bend. So now we come back here. This is our final check. We're sitting at 89.3. That's pretty majestical. And then I can also just pop a square down on the ground up against it and run my eye down the length of it, and that's looking about as minty as we're going to get. So with that, let's bend it and try not mess this up. Righto, let's see if I got it right this time. Well, that's looking better. Lovely. Righto, with that chop, I think I'm going to weld it on. Just tack it in place and see how it looks. I quickly wanted just to mention, Ilsa has been here all day as well. She's trying to dodge the camera. Hello. She's been working all day on tearing out the interior and giving the truck a clean. So she's been filming her own vlog on that, so hopefully I'll be able to persuade her to let me post that. But yeah, she's a gem, and she's been keeping me company. But yeah, how good does this look? Major weight reduction. Race truck, eh, Els?
Maybe.
Righto, I am super chuffed with that. I reckon that looks neat. Slight issue in that I'm going to be doing headlight bars, and currently where I was planning on it coming off, it's a bit tucked, but I'm using smaller diameter tube, so I'm hoping I should be able to just put a little bend and come up and round. But I reckon that looks sweet, really follows the curve of the truck, and in fact adds some curve. Looks really good. Anyway, I'm going to leave you guys to it for a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and bang out replicating it on the other side. And I guess I'll catch you when we've got 2 tubes. And after about an hour and a half or so, we've got the next one done. It's always amazes me how much quicker the second one goes, but far out it takes a bit of time right at the end trying to get it to match. Unfortunately, the truck's got it's all a bit bent up, So trying to get the two to match up perfectly was hard because that headlight's higher than that headlight, just slightly. But anyway, I'm pretty sure I've got it about as good as it's going to get. Really good flow to that bumper. So we're now going to move on and do the centre loop. If this was anything other than a beater truck, I would probably just leave it as it is. Well, obviously I'd do a couple more braces down the bottom, but I'll just leave it as it is because I really like the way it looks, the clean, almost like British Hill Rally vibes the truck gives off with the big flared arches and the simple tube bar. But this thing's going to be getting absolutely slammed into some banks and running some proper hard tracks. So that means headlight loops are going to be necessary. Unless I wanted to spend all my money on replacement indicators, and for that we've got to do a centre loop as well. A centre loop also allows us to run winch horns up nice and high, which is definitely something you want on a truck that's going to be doing a lot of winching, and it also gives a bit more options for mounting lights. So it makes sense. It's not what I'd love to do in terms of aesthetic, but I'm pretty sure the design I've got, I should still be able to pull off a decent looking bar despite all the extra weight and just mess. Anyway, let's get into that. Those of you who are regular viewers of the channel may recognise this technique from a previous video. Essentially what I'm doing here is making a one-to-one template of the bends that I'm wanting to create for the bumper. So with the centre loop I have two very key end points that I'm wanting to land at, and because I know the height that I would like the centre loop to come to as well as the angle of the diagonals of the centre loop, rather than doing some complicated maths, I can just draw it all out on the floor, starting at my end points and working my way in to create a perfect template, which I can then copy my bend reference points across onto the tube, which you will see in the next clip. So I forgot to film while I bent this, but anyway, that's the first bend, and I've measured the stroke of the ram so I can replicate it at this end. So I've then gone and taken my inside where it kind of like crosses over, and then drawn that line straight over. So that's my point to bend from on the other side. So I'll go chuck it in the bender. Again, because we want to keep this all on the same plane, we're going to zero up the bender with the digital angle finder, just make sure that it's sitting nice and level, and then I'll put the angle finder on this section of the tube, make sure that that's saying 0, 0, and that means that once I do the bend, these two bends should be on the same plane. There we have it, guys. A pretty much perfectly fitting up A-bar to the design. So what I'll do now is go and trim the excess off each leg and then line it up and notch it to go onto the bumper. Well, excuse me skipping ahead a little bit. As you can see behind me, there's a bar sitting in place now. I decided to go ahead and notch it off camera because there's plenty more notching to show you, and I was doing a little bit of work during the week getting that done. And then this morning I've just cleaned up the whole bar, and as you can see, it's looking good. I've just got this little tie holding it in place. So the notches are looking alright, so I'm going to go ahead and tack it in place, and then we can take the tie off and see how it looks. The bar's sitting a little bit lower than I'd probably like in terms of the overall height of the top section. I'd like it a little bit higher because we're probably going to end up with the headlight loops getting quite a bit of a frown going on there while I was trying to avoid the angry eye bumper, but I think it'll still look alright. Anyway, let's get this thing tacked up. Well, I feel like I've been stood here for a good, I don't know, half an hour trying to work out how I want to do these headlight loops. Basically, I'll show you the problem is that for where the tube needs to land, it's kind of off the edge of the bottom tube. So we've got a couple of options. One is to use something like this here, a little weld and bend, and cut a segment and to pop it in there. That would certainly solve the problem, but I'm just not convinced that that's going to look best. The other option is to get a piece of bent tube and essentially just put like a bend in the bottom and have it like kind of, I think it'll look better because it would follow the kind of shape of that indicator and have it like here coming out and up, but I'm not quite sure yet. I've been just pondering what to do. What I think I'm going to do now is make both options up, and then I can look at it and decide. I know I'm being a perfectionist, but I don't know. Take pride in your work. Anyway, we'll make both options and then see what I decide on. Well, I've done it again, guys. I've gone and forgotten to film. I was just going to mock up kind of the headlight loop, just kind of play with ideas, but I've ended up really liking the first idea. So this is what we've ended up with. Apologies for the lighting. So just a short section of pipe there. That took forever to get the notch, and I don't know why, but anyway. And then from there, just a 45-degree weld and bend and a 90, and then obviously it's pretty self-explanatory, that just gets linked up along there. Well, I've gone ahead and boosted out a bunch of work without filming, essentially just mocking up the other side. So we've now got two identical sides, and then that top bar is currently just held in there with a magnet, mostly just so I can see if I like the height. I kind of feel like I wish it was a little bit higher up before it kicked round, but then it would have an even bigger slope. So I think I'm going to just settle with being happy with where it sits, and I'm going to move on to doing this top bar. So it's going to come along, and then about where the headlight ends, it's just going to dive down. So something like that. So I'm going to grab some 32 NB, chop it up, and start bending it. I don't know how long I've spent standing here, staring at the truck, trying to convince myself what I've built I like, but I just don't like it. So I think the main problem is that bar there does not come up high enough. I think it needs to come up and round more. Because right now, imagine the bottom of the bar, it goes straight across there. It cuts quite a significant amount of the headlight off. Which I'm just not sold on, and I also have a funny feeling that the Waffman may not be sold on. You never know, but I'm torn. I've already bent the tubes up to link it to the bar, but just it's not right. So I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to chop apart my work, add a bit more height into it, and stick it back together. What are we thinking? There? 130. So yeah, got them both tacked up. So I'm going to continue with trying to get the tube I bent before to work. I think the amount of bend in it should still be okay. I only raised it 30 mil, so I'll just have to remark where I'm notching, and I'll continue on with that. Must say I'm much happier with the way that looks. It looks correct, actually outlining the headlight rather than just cutting through it. So there we go. I guess that's a lesson for everyone to just, if you're not happy, just do it right. Much happier with it now. I don't think I could have ever quite looked at the bar and been perfectly happy. Only 30 mil, but there you go. That wee motivational speech done and dusted. We'll continue on with the top bars. Not bad. Both bars somewhat done. Just need to clean them up and we can tack them in place. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with them. I'm never ever going to be a fan of them, I don't think. I just don't like headlight loops, and that's just how I am. But as far as headlight loops go, I think they look okay. Next up is this area here. I'm just wanting to put a little bar in there. Just kind of looks a little bit vague, a little bit lost, I don't know. A little bit of a funny shape. So I feel like a little tie in there will look good aesthetically, but also provide just a little bit more flex for if I absolutely smack this bar up high, rather than relying on just the weld. It can push the force back into this. So for that, I'm only going to use a bit of 25 MB, just so that it's clearly a supporting tube and not a main structure. Keep the design from looking like it's getting too chunky. I've gone ahead and made both of these little fill-in pieces there. I've got that one there, and one around there as well. Righto, so this afternoon is going to be welding out time. I've gone ahead and cleaned out the areas that I want to weld best I can. Unfortunately, it's still got a little bit rusty from sitting around with no paint on it, but I'm going to weld this joint up, that joint, and the same on the other sides. Once that's all welded up, I'm then going to break that tack weld and that tack weld, and we'll take this piece off so that I can separately weld out all these joins. Just a bit of info for those of you who are not aware, but with these butt weld joins, so there and there, if you just weld on the surface, like say maybe this one here where there's not much of a V, you're likely to get cracking. So what I'm going to do for the ones which haven't got V's in them yet, I'm going to get the grinder in and grind that chamfer into it, so that I can fill it with weld and make sure that it's nice and strong. Righto, well, fast forward a little bit and we have gone and got one of the tubes all blended out, as you can see. Looking all nice and smooth. Got the next one to go. But yeah, far out, it is a big job. Few tips for if you are doing this yourself. Weld hot, it just makes life so much easier, making a flatter weld for when you come to grind it all off. As you can see, we got some pretty nice flat welds in some spots, but then a few lumpy bits just where the weld's begun and is still cold. And the other tip I would say is, where possible, when you got your grinder, where possible you want to be going around. You don't want to be going across, or you end up putting lots of lines in it. As you'll see here, we are using that technique of wrapping the grinder around the tube rather than going across it. That is to make sure that we do not create any ridges in it, and you'll see I'll then change out for the belt sander to finish off, just to get any of those last high points and to blend it out nicely. That is 7 minutes work you just saw. Now multiply that out by the 8 I've got to do, and you can see how these builds just end up taking a long time. I've gone ahead and whipped up these little winch horns. If you don't know what winch horns are, I'll explain shortly once I've got them welded up. But first things first, we're just going to weld the little caps on and then weld them onto the bar. Well, 45 minutes or so later, I've got those all done. Far out, it never fails to surprise me just how long these small fabrication jobs can take, and it just all adds up. Anyway, moving on, I said I'd tell you about what the winch horns are for. So, essentially, it's just something to wind your rope around. You've probably seen on shows like Full Drive Action or Full Drive 24/7, whatever they're called. You'll see them winding the rope around their spotlights or light bar and things. It just always gets caught up. If you're thinking of doing that, just do this. It's honestly so much simpler. You just grab your hook, plop it over there, like so, and then across, back, and just wind the rope on. And that way, when you get stuck, you can literally just grab one end, lift the whole lot off, and then the rope falls down to the ground. No knots, no getting caught around like brackets of your light bar or anything. And you've got all the rope you need. Right, well, it's a new day, and goal is to get it painted this morning. So before that, I just need to go ahead and blend things like the end caps and tidy up one or two slightly lumpy lumpy welds. So jump onto that, paint and fit it up. Well, there you have it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that wee clip I put together revealing the bumper. I'm so stoked with how it's turned out. If you told me I could build this a few years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. So just goes to show, get out there, give something a go. Worst case you fail, and best case, well, you outdo your expectations. So I'm super chuffed. I've got heaps of videos coming, got a rear bumper build coming, and then in a week's time we're going enduro racing in this truck. So that's going to be an absolute ball. Hit subscribe to stay tuned for all that. Give us a like if you've enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of the bumper. I know it's way different to what most discos run. So yeah, let me know. Do you like it? Do you not? Not your cup of tea? It's all good. I'm not a big fan of the headlight loops, but I mean, gotta have the protection, I guess. So anyway, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. Bit of a waffly outro, I know, but we'll catch you all in the next one. Cheers for watching. See you then.